exciting experience and always very unique, no matter who you are or what neighborhood you're going in. I have a very good friend, Margaret, who is going door to door in California in an apartment complex, and a giant man answered the door, and he had a machete in one hand, and he was tapping it on his other hand. And she went through and she talked about her Republican candidate and would he consider voting for him. And the man said, the only words he said the whole time were, "Can't vote, convicted felon." And now, I don't know about you, but that would scare me. But it didn't scare Margaret. She's still going door to door 20 years later. As a matter of fact, her husband ran for office recently, so she got to find out what it was like to be a political spouse. Always interesting. It's always interesting, especially when you're looking at the morning paper. It's amazing. It's a very unique experience to read the morning paper and learn things about your husband that even he didn't know. But the papers have nothing on political blogs. Do any of you read political blogs? The political blogs are where I found out that my husband is part of a Russian mob gas cartel. And that is where we get all of our money. So that night when Ken got home, I said, "Well, where's all the money, honey?" So he's threatened to cut off our internet service many times. We've had many experiences, very funny experiences over the years, but they almost always have to do with how our children perceive things. When Ken first ran for the state senate, it was about this hot all summer, and I was 18 months pregnant all summer long. And some of you remember we were running this campaign out of our house, and so we had volunteers in and out of the house all day and night, every day. Just so you know, I wouldn't do that now. I was crazy back then, but so my daughter Allie, who's now 17, was 6 at the time, and she said, "Mom, if Dad wins this election, are all those people going to move into our basement?" And I thought, and I said, "You mean all the campaign volunteers?" And she said, "No, the people who protect you." And I thought, "You mean the Secret Service?" And she said, "Yeah, they can move into our basement." And she thought her daddy was running for president of the United States. But she was willing to make the sacrifice of having the Secret Service live in our basement. Yesterday, I was reading a book about Lexington and Concord to my sons, Jack and Max. It's really great to go back and read up on it. It's a very compelling and exciting story. In fact, Jack and Max loved it so much they couldn't believe it was real. They kept saying, "Is this really real?" They didn't know that real life could be so cool. But my favorite part is when the redcoats are approaching Lexington Green, and Captain John Parker shouts to his men, "Stand your ground! Don't fire unless fired upon." This is my favorite part. "But if they need to have a war, let it begin here." And it did. And you will know the rest of the story. The British leaders had joked that the Americans would run away, that they were cowards. But they didn't run away. They stood their ground and they fought back. And they fought back because they loved their country. And they hated tyranny. The Americans had no prospects of winning that. They had no guarantee of winning the revolution. In fact, their prospects were pretty dim. And for the leaders of the revolution, Patrick Henry, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, Paul Revere, the penalty for them if they lost would be death and the ruin of their families. But they fought anyway. So we're gathered here 238 years later on the 4th of July because we too love our country. And the rights the founding fathers fought for, the rights that they pledged their lives to preserve, they're being threatened by a new form of tyranny. Our inalienable rights to life and liberty, our Second Amendment rights, our rights to our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, they are being strangled. And we have to fight. But we're not guaranteed success either. But if we don't fight, what is the future of our nation? What's the future for our children? Extraordinary times call for extraordinary leaders. And it's up to us to raise a new generation of leaders. And our battlefront is Virginia politics. If you haven't signed up to help us already, please do. We really need your help. I know it's not hard to believe, but the media is not always accurate. And this fact is especially true when it comes to how they cover my husband. But a couple of days, the Washington Post got something very right. I'll quote the article. It said that they were talking about how a lot of big donors are holding back on donating to Ken. And the quote was, "Some donors with legislative interests in the state worry that Cuccinelli is unlobbyable." They should be worried because they're actually very right. We won't be getting their donations. But where God closes a door, He opens a window. The next few months are an uphill battle for us, and we really can use your help. We're fighting for timeless conservative principles of limited government and the preservation of life and liberty. Please join us. It's time for us to stand our ground. Martin, thank you for blazing the trail for us and for training up a new generation of conservative leaders. On this 237th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, may God bless the United States of America.